in this wonderful series, and let's talk about the two elements that the competitor doesn't have so far, and he's still profitable despite all the mess and all the improvements. There's still a lot more to improve, right? That's why I'm saying that once we got a profitable situation on our hand, on the front end, it's like inevitable success. So let's talk about the infrastructure, right? So just to give a sense, in the infrastructure we have the AOV elements, we have the LTV elements, and separately from that we got Facebook retargeting. Right, so let's take each one of them. AOV, right? So let's talk about what a cart abandonment means, right? So how does a cart abandonment improve the situation? So here's some calculations that I've made, and I didn't think much about the cart abandonment, but it's quite significant. So usually there's a 4-to-1, let's suppose like a bad case, a 4-to-1 add to cart to purchase ratio, right? That means that so this is one thing that we know. We also know that the cart abandonment makes one sale for every 10 carts that were abandoned, right? Like the 10% conversion rate from the carts that were abandoned, right? That basically means that from 12 carts, we got 3 sales from this formula, right? That means that 9 carts were abandoned. So if we have an abandonment cart sequence, then out of those 9 carts that are abandoned, another sale is being recuperated, right? So now, with the same amount of money on Facebook, because this is an app, this is not some extra spend on Facebook side. Now we have from 3 sales, we moved to 4 sales. For every 3 sales, we got an extra 4th sale just because of this app, right? So what does this mean? This means that we have essentially improved the CPP by 25% or lowered the CPP by 25%. Like you can run the calculations. This is it. So imagine this: if we got a cost per purchase of $30, then the cost per purchase becomes 75% of that. So 75 times 30, that's $22.5, right? So we have essentially saved $7.5 just because we have this app. If we got a cost per purchase of $50, right? Now $50 gets transformed into $37.5. So we will save $12.5 for every transaction just because we have this app. So it's quite significant. And the beautiful thing about this is that it works every single time. Like it worked every single time, and sometimes it's even better than 10%. With Klaviyo it was 15%. So like 100 by 50. So that's from every 6.6 cars that were abandoned, there's an additional sale. So that's even better than like the lowering of the cost per purchase can even be $40, which is even more than here. Right, so this is the beautiful thing with infrastructure, right? So the cart abandonment is one element in the infrastructure. What's another thing with let's see. Another significant thing, right, is having a bundle table and the order bounds. And we know how much those helped with the Nora product, right? And again, I'm saying that if the competitor doesn't have any AOV, he's leaving a lot of money on the table, right? Because he doesn't have the cart abandonment, because he doesn't have a bundle table, because he doesn't have order bounds, right? What else? Post-purchase upsell. Now the post-purchase upsell could be in 3 ways. It could be via the app, it could be via email, and it could be via SMS, right? So there are 3 ways. And there's an experimental feature which is called a forced subscription in the cart. And then, so this is experimental. And there's also another thing that might contribute to the AOV, which is a forced subscription in the checkout. And there's also a thing called an order bound in the checkout. So this is experimental as well. Oh, one thing that I should have included in the other video would be, like, one thing where we can improve would be to have like one product page checkout instead of 3-step checkout, right? We've seen that works, and if the competitor doesn't have it, well, it gives us the opportunity to improve here. Okay, so back to this. Right? So this is the beauty of the cart and the cart abandonment and all of those other things, right? So this is strictly the AOV aspect, which the competitor doesn't have, and he's still profitable. So if we implement those things, we're like skyrocketing the profits. Okay, and the last thing would be, well, two other things, the LTV and the Facebook retargeting. Now, talking about the LTV, I thought, like older than 2 weeks ago, I thought that LTV is sort of like a situation where brands can leverage this, right? Regular dropshippers don't really leverage this, but I figured out how it's not the case, right? And here's why. There are a few contexts that influence a person to buy a lot. Okay, so the first one is everything is good, right? The ad is excellent, the product page, the page is excellent, the offer is excellent, right? Just like we talked up until now. The thing that's even better than all of those things is if a figure of authority recommends this product to them. Something that's even better is if a friend recommends this to them, right? A friend that they trust. And then the most influential thing for somebody to buy is if they had a prior good experience with ordering from the shop. This is the most significant element that influences somebody to buy. More important than those things, right? So the reason why I say we can implement LTV even in the dropshipping model is because some people, out of their own insane reasons, they feel satisfied with having ordered. Like they really feel like the product is useful. They, for some reason, are fine with the shipping time, and they are fine with, how the email sequence reassure them that they're going to get the order, right? They got the order, which means that, we're serious and whatever. So there's going to be a percentage of people that are happy, and there's going to be a percentage of people that are not happy. But not thinking about implementing LTV loses on the opportunity of doing something with people that had a prior good experience with ordering from us, right? So now we think about, okay, so we want to operate somehow with the context of having a bunch of people that had a prior good experience with us, right? So let's say that there are 5 to 10% of the people that had a good experience with us. No more than that. A very low estimate, right? Okay. Now, the reason why I thought that a brand would be in a situation where they could have an LTV is because, for example, people buy a dress, and if we have a bunch of dresses, then we can communicate to the customer, okay, you bought a dress, buy other dresses, or buy other complementary items from the same category. But it's not necessarily to have like a wide selection of products and to have like a niche store and all of that stuff, right? For example, with the Noro product, the Noro is a tense massager. You can imagine how if somebody is satisfied with that product, if it heals the muscles and whatever, right? We can think from that perspective. We can think that there's a bunch of people that are happy with that product. So now we need to think about how can we advertise to those people that are happy with the product that they bought from us in a way where they would say, yes, I want this as well, right? Right. So if we apply the law of implication and we say, okay, what clearly is wrong, right? So one example would be if we advertise a television or a fridge or some horse shampoo to them, right? That would be incongruent. But if we seek to investigate the frame of the product, okay, so what's the frame of the product? A meta frame would be personal health. And a more surface level frame would be, so stacking on the more outer frame, which is personal health care, then personal health care via electronic devices, right? So now we can sell to those people healthcare electronic devices that are complementary to that product. So they could be orthopedic pillows, or they could be like orthopedic pillows for sleeping or for sitting on the chair, or they could be stretch bands or whatever, right? So you see how we can brainstorm. It's not necessarily complementary items, but items in the same lexical field or semantic field, I don't know what it's called, but in the same category of frames as the other product was, right? So it's quite easy to think about products to sell to them that they would say yes, and also leverage the fact that some of them had a prior good experience, right? So I had this realization where we can still leverage the LTV, right? Of course, we don't want the LTV to rob attention or to be a priority, but it's just something that can improve the situation. Right, so now let's talk about Facebook retargeting, the last thing, which is part of the infrastructure, right? So there are three things: AOV, LTV, and Facebook retargeting. And as I was saying, the competitor doesn't have any of those. So this is how we improve. Okay, Facebook retargeting. As I was showing you a year ago, the calculations with having 3 layers of retargeting. So retargeting people that engaged with the ad but didn't click, and then retargeting people that clicked but didn't add to cart, and then retargeting people that added to cart but didn't purchase. So three layers of retargeting. They would result in cost per purchases that are less than the cost per purchase from cold traffic. Now, if we were to do a harmonic sum or whatever it's called, where we would take into account all of those cost per purchases, it turns out that having Facebook retargeting lowers the overall CPP by 25% again, right? Because the cost per purchase for retargeting people that added to cart, or for retargeting people that clicked but didn't add to cart, that cost per purchase is lower than the cost per purchase from the cold audience, right? So if we take into account all of those cost per purchases, overall there's a calculation that I've made, and it was inspired from Deepesh's course, and I've seen this in practice, especially with the smartwatch. Like, there were like 3 or 4 fundamental reasons why it was so profitable, and one of them was the Facebook retargeting. Right, so this lowers the cost per purchase 25%, right? So you see how just having the cart abandonment and Facebook retargeting, which the competitor doesn't have, in total lowers the cost per purchase by 50%. Not to mention the fact that we add all of those other things and the LTV, right? So, okay, so basically in this video I covered how they don't have infrastructure, and the fact that we have an infrastructure will basically increase the AOV, and it will virtually lower the cost per purchase more than 50%. And it's such a big advantage to have over the competition and over everybody that copies the competition. So again, this is like building upon the context from before, right? So the first context was to copy somebody that's in a particular way. The second context is to improve on them. And the third context essentially is to implement the infrastructure that they don't have. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about Facebook.